Hey everybody, welcome to the Strive Summit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Hanna, and with me today I have Ian. Ian, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey Alex, glad to be here today, man. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, so Ian, why don't you tell me a little bit where you're working at, what you're doing, and how that's kind of playing into your BIM role right now.
Okay, well, I own my own company, Advanced BIM Solutions. I started about 2.5 years ago. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I was working for a large firm here in Dallas for the time being that I was here. I moved from California. I've been doing this for about 20 years. Started out as a plumber and worked my way into this role. I run a team of about 5 people, so I'm a BIM manager by day. Yeah, we do BIM coordination and, just keep those job sites coordinated, man.
BIM manager, BIM coordination, VDC technician, they're kind of all the same thing these days, you know what I mean? You just you got to be a jack of all trades when you're on your own, trust me, I know that. So what's some technology you're trying to introduce and stuff in your workplace?
Well, we've been working with a esports virtual arena, trying to implement doing 3D virtual walkthroughs for architects, owners, trying to gamify the process. So we've been working with a company out of France. They just dropped their first franchise location here, kind of in my backyard in Flower Mound. So we've been working with them and a team of developers out of Belgium, trying to make it cool and interesting for people to walk through and be able to make it practical as possible, right?
Yeah, I love that, and that's why I kind of wanted you on the podcast to kind of talk about that practicality. One of my goals is to get, a different generation interested in construction that may not know this stuff exists. I mean, construction now is gamification and technology and VR and LiDAR and drones and remote control cars. It's literally everything that we all dreamt about growing up, like being able to build a building in Sims and then have it come to real life. That's what we do for it. We play video games all day. So if you can, would you like to elaborate a little bit more about what that VR station kind of thing look?
Yeah, so we're working with a company, Vibe, and they basically have their own headset and their whole own operating system for us to be in. It uses tracking just like we do with going out for AR on a job site, and just like a game, you end up getting your controllers or your gun. We've been kind of walking around with one of the play guns in the model, and it helps it stay stationary. This facility that we've been using has the largest operational space for viewing. It's 10,000 square feet. So we've been able to take pretty small commercial projects, but put it into the space, and you can go in and jump in an elevator and press a button, and then you come out of the elevator and you're on the next level. We've been working to try to make it realistic with the way that the piping and the material looks, and trying to work on texture selections so that, and this is kind of the difficult part where it gets, it just gets a little bit in depth, is trying to make it so that somebody could come in theoretically on a walkthrough, be able to go into a model, interact collaboratively with multiple people in the model. So everybody would check in and have their own avatar. As they go in, they can see the other person and not run into them. And then you're able to roughly go in, select, our goal is to be able to select, like, let's say you go in and the architect says, well, I don't really like the way that this finish looks on the wall, and select that wall, and to either be able to right now put a flag on it and mark it. So we're working on having a key up at the top that's like a blueprint showing from the contract drawing, so that somebody can flag that, put a note on the issue, and ultimately we'd like them to be able to select through palettes and do things like that. That's the goal. But this really ties together. I mean, if you've played Minecraft, or you've done any of these games, Ark Survival or something like that, right? That my kid plays. Then you've prepared to do what we do for a living, kind of, because you go into Revit, or you go in and you select palettes, or you select tool palettes, and you go in and you drop things down. So that's kind of the same idea with the VR, is to go in there. It's definitely way more hands-on. And with this situation, what we're trying to really combat is the impracticality of doing it standing still. You end up kind of getting motion sickness almost. You can kind of get a little bit dizzy in your head. When you're actually walking through the model and you're actually walking into different rooms and viewing it and collaborating with people, that motion type sickness doesn't really happen. You just get a walk around and it's like real life, except for it's a cartoon. So pretty cool stuff.
That is pretty awesome. You're almost jumping the bridge between like AEC and VFX almost. With the VR headset and integrations, I think that's absolutely incredible. And architects, if you're listening, like, this would be amazing to get an architectural model that they've done, right? And give you palette swatches, and you say, okay, yeah, come on down to the facility, walk it, play with your swatches, let us know what you want. That is awesome. That is awesome. Now,
yeah, and I mean, the really cool part is that the basically, since this is the first franchise facility for this location, their goal is to branch all over the U.S. So they're trying to find a practical way to use their facilities during the daytime when it's not their peak time for virtual gaming. So it's a great opportunity for contractors, architects, everybody in the AEC industry to utilize these spaces and to find maximum opportunity to showcase what they're doing, present to owners changes, go through quarterly walkthroughs or monthly walkthroughs. Obviously, you can have people sign in at a distance, right? Be virtual, be distant. But really, it's a pretty awesome opportunity to see everything. And it's the difference of an owner understanding what they're paying for, or you building it and then being completely dissatisfied with the product that you've done, are totally surprised at the millions of dollars they spent that they feel they wasted. And you're like, this is exactly what I showed you on my 2D drawing. What do you mean? So.
Yeah, I didn't order those cabinets. Those are the ones I want. Yeah, no, I get that. I was wondering what feasibility does that have to bring like mentorships and students in to kind of see the built world in a different lens. I'm thinking like high school kids coming in and seeing some construction and seeing what we did, and like, oh yeah, we're a construction company, we're a BIM VDC company, we do this. I wonder what kind of input they can have in the community. Have you reached out to anyone yet?
Specifically with the VR, or maybe
just students in general,
again, Alex?
Trying to get them involved. Students coming in, seeing the VR, seeing what you're doing with BIM.
Yeah, no, I am working closely with Texo Foundation here. I'm a member of Texo and a part of their virtual construction committee. I've been working closely with the foundation manager to try and connect with kids in high school, trying to give them opportunities to see what we're doing, what we're about. Like you mentioned in the beginning, and like we talked about before, if you basically get into what we're doing on accident, it seems like. They don't tell you in high school when you take the test, and they tell you if you should be a janitor or a doctor, if you should be a BIM coordinator or a in VDC. So trying to get with kids and let them know, that there's a great opportunity here, that this is where I see the industry expanding, that I think this is, to some degree, the solution between, skilled labor gaps and the future of construction. I think it's where companies want it to go. I think it's a safe solution, getting work out of the field as much as possible. And I think it actually is a great opportunity to look at, better funding our labor. If the labor were to go more towards VDC and where people are already naturally inclined, those people who would remain in the field would become highly valuable, and I believe their price would go up just in the nature of what they do and their specialty. I think it would drive more people towards it that were really interested in it, and would help to give a path to those who maybe just don't even belong in construction in the field because that's not where their heart is and where their mind is, and maybe they can really make leaps and bounds in this area where they've been playing Minecraft for years, getting all ready to go into. So trying to connect with those kids, trying to work with the Louisville Career Technical Center here in Texas to see if we can't give an introduction to this, and then also the Construction Education Foundation in Coppell, connected with Dallas College, trying to work with them to see if we can't implement some certification programs and just some introduction into what we do so that people who are going through apprenticeships, that have already decided to go into construction can learn some really applicable things that they can use tomorrow on the job site that they would really like to learn, that there isn't any training for. Maybe just not specific trainings that would allow them to be able to utilize that in the field, and might, enlighten them to some opportunities that they just might not be aware of yet. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
We've been trying
that's
to do.
Awesome, Ian. I remember taking that test in high school on what my career was going to be. I was going to be a preacher or a landscaper. And I was like, man, I really got it going for me, but you're right. You're right. Everyone kind of falls into this industry on accident, and that was definitely the case for me. And I want to kind of get into that for you, because, at the end, we're all a bunch of nerds. We all played games growing up. We were all that person. Or we came from the field of the trades. That's the only two options. Stuff like growing up, this is how you got into BIM. Now, how you actually landed that first job is totally different. So I want to hear where the inspiration came for you. One, how you started your career off and how you got into where you're at to where you're building this company, and then now you have this platform that you're building for virtual reality for more, like integrations and hands-on learning for architects and engineers, and even like up-and-comers trying to kind of get their grasp on what they're going to be building. Why don't you start from the beginning? Let's start as far back as you want, and let's go from there.
Well, my pops was a plumber, so I always wanted to be a plumber. So when I didn't graduate high school and I stopped going to school, I wanted to be a plumber, so I went into the field, and my uncle had a plumbing company in Colorado, and I was in San Diego. So me and my current wife, my only wife, got married, moved out to Colorado, and I started plumbing light commercial and residential. We were out there for almost a year, and we got pregnant with our first daughter, and I was moving back to San Diego, and my mother-in-law worked for a company, Pacific Rim Mechanical, in San Diego, and they wanted to put me in Associated Builders and Contractors, the vocational school. Well, I didn't have my GED, so I went and got my GED. I moved back, and I went into their apprenticeship program. From there, I went in, moved up at Pacific Rim. I stayed there for about a decade. I became a foreman, did super cool work. It was a company that focused on laboratories and hospitals and breweries. And so, that whole boom of Western style ales and stuff, I got to work at AleSmith and Stone Brewery and Ballast Point and, so many more, Society Brew and Green, all these different breweries. So that was a really cool aspect, orbital welding, piping, plumbing. And then, I got to work in hospitals and laboratories, worked at Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Amlin and just a ton of big name laboratories. Salk Institute, got to work at Salk Institute. Anyway, so lots of cool stuff. Really kind of kept my mind going, because plumbing's plumbing, Once you put in one pipe, you put them all in, kind of, until you get into some specialty piping, and then it kind of keeps it interesting, and you learn, different ways to put, different things together. So it kept me interested. One day I was out at St. Archer Brewery. They ended up getting bought out by Miller. And while I was out there working at that place, plumbing in the field, the guy from at that time, all we called it was detailing. I didn't hear VDC until like the last 5 years or something like that. So the detailing department head came out and talked to me and said, hey, you want to come in and do this? And I was, I'd talked to them on the phone. I'd seen their names on shop drawings. I'd called them when there was a problem. And so I went in. His name was Carl Kramer. I went in and worked with them for about a year. And then we were doing a huge project for this company out of Ireland. I think it was Shire. And they were making something for, I think, your neck, if you had some problems with paralysis or something. And it had like 23 buildings. It was this huge job, and it got shut down. And so like overnight, they were like, we don't have any work. Do you want to go back out in the field? So I went back out in the field, went and worked at a small laboratory for a little while. I think it was Arena Laboratories. And I was right across the way from the union. So I was merit shop the whole time. I finished ABC, did all that stuff. So I went and talked to the union. I went to the union for 3 years from there. I'd always wanted to go in the union. I always just wanted to know about, what they were about. They were the opposite of us. You heard plenty of trash talking on both sides.
Yep.
So I went, right. I went in for about 3 years into the union and put my bags on and just worked my butt off. And just like I had never worked before, I'd moved up pretty quick in the sense of management, lead guy and foreman. And so I got to kind of take my bags off a little bit early in the field. And so I just got to put in some real tough work for about 3 years and get my hands dirty. Well, that wore me out pretty quick, right? I missed the glory days of walking around the job site and pointing at people and making fun of them while I didn't do anything. So my back started to hurt and all kinds of stuff. Anyways, I wasn't old or anything, but I ended up getting an opportunity to go work at another company that was a merit shop, Alpha Mechanical, in San Diego, and head up their plumbing CAD side. They didn't have anybody for plumbing. They were more of a mechanical shop. They did about 70% HVAC and 30% plumbing. So I didn't know the software very well. A real good friend of mine, Randy Martinez, was the BIM manager there for the department, and brought me in, taught me what I needed to know about the software, and let me handle the plumbing. So we quickly had a couple of guys on the plumbing side underneath me. I was able to, we were still just fully AutoCAD, no Revit. So this is like 2015, something like that. So I got some great experience there. I got to kind of watched the transition to Revit a little bit, worked in Revit. It was confusing. It was frustrating. I didn't like it, right?
No one did. Come from CAD, yeah.
I love it now. Yeah, nobody send me back to CAD now, please, right? But so that was great. I loved it. That company ended up not pursuing plumbing eventually, and before they closed that department, I reached out to some people down here in Texas, seeing what opportunities might be down here. And the company I came and worked for here, fantastic company, TD Industries. They were doing like $750 million worth of work a year. I mean, they're putting it in. Big company. Got like 11 different locations, a couple different states, awesome people, super smart, just great company, great culture. So I went to that company and got to work there, and that was a fantastic experience. Met a lot of great people, but it was a little corporate for me, right? It was just a little bit. It was a big company, man. I thought I'd been in a big company with like 600 people, but this company was a couple thousand people, and it takes a lot to steer a ship like that. So it was a little, I was really excited about where the industry was innovating and going, and I've gotten over my frustrations with Revit, and now we're into like COVID maybe, and we're into like, Teams becoming a big thing and people working at home, Yep. So there was just a lot of software transition at the time. It feels like there was incredible software transition. Started using Stratus for exporting models into the shop, and just how we were communicating between VDC to the shop and the field, trying to create CRMs between the field, the shop, and VDC, and steering that big of a ship. I just got to give everybody their round of applause for doing that. But it was a pretty difficult task, and the level of innovation that was able to happen at a quick rate was definitely difficult to see happen there. So, I really wanted to see myself maximize the opportunity for fabrication and for innovation. So I did. I stepped away from that company, and then so for the last 2.5 years, I've been here at Advanced BIM Solutions. A creation that I hoped would help bring innovation to smaller firms that really just don't have the capacity or maybe the know-how to implement VDC in their projects and within their company. It's really difficult, we're not training people like we're already touching on in this from high school all the way through in their career to do this for a living. So yep. For any firm, I watch probably the same thing where you're from. You watch all these different companies kind of fight over the same group of people to some degree, right? It's like, these guys get trained at this company, and then these guys all poach them from that company. They go over here, and this company don't like that company, but then these guys get mad. Some of them go back, and whatever. It's all the same stuff.
Right.
So I really had a hope to work with some of these, and I've been able to work with really large companies. The company that I left, I've done work with them. Other big companies here in the area that are just fantastic firms. But I'd have to say that my biggest, my heart's desire, where my heart is with it is to be an asset to these smaller firms that are required contractually now to provide, in-depth VDC to some degree, right? And to be able to coordinate, do BIM coordination, and to be able to produce fabrication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and there's really a great benefit to it if it's done, in a way that's effective and efficient. I think a huge problem is that if you haven't seen something to its end, you may have preconceived notions about it and or some bitter experiences. And a lot of these firms send their stuff off overseas, and that's a fine decision. But what ends up happening a lot of times is that it's not aligning with code. It's not constructible. There's, we're talking about primarily people who are trained in engineering, who are dealing with diagrammatic and an overall look of, okay, this needs to be this size to carry this, and here's the sink, so this connect to here. We're looking at it from an installation, from a constructability, from a code side, right? So making sure that these firms, have what they need, these construction, companies are able to take what we draw and not just completely recreate it unnecessarily. And that they can walk us through the steps of what they'd like to see installed. It can be their style. It can save the pipe and fittings just the way they like, and I hope I'm always thinking of them that way. Yep. And give them that same leverage that these large companies have, and opportunities to work within these contracts that they might otherwise not be prepared to do so.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so I'm going to touch on a few things here, okay? Your high school days, you're not the first person, nor will you be the last to ever tell me that you had a drop out of high school. I had people college dropouts and follow the same path. So if you're listening out there and you're in a situation where you don't think you can get out of, get into the BIM field. You can make a career out of it. You do not have to have a college degree. You do not have to have, it helps, but you don't have to graduate and do these things. Don't think that you're stuck. The BIM industry is so young right now, so young that the companies can't even keep up with the requirements. Which is, Ian, what you're kind of talking about, is having these companies that are required to do this, they can't do it because they don't have the people, right? The next thing I want to talk about you coming up, you got asked to do some drawings in the field, or drawings from the field and put into the office. I want to ask how that situation unfolded, because a lot of times, I'll have people on here be like, oh, and then I went into teaching. It's like, well, how did you get into teaching? How did you actually go transition from plumbing to teaching, So I want to hear that backstory on how you, one, got the eye of the people to come talk to you and put you in the office, and then how that situation unfolded, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, no. So so after I got my GED and went through vocational school, I got pretty excited about learning. It's like I forgot to learn when I was in high school and middle school, right? I was busy doing other things, right? So a lot of the things that people might see as a repeat in college, right? Because your first 2 years is sort of a repeat. For me, it was like the first time. So I was kind of lit up, and I was able to take those vocational classes that were through San Diego City College, and I was able to finish out my general education and get an industrial engineering degree. So I was able to kind of present that to my company, the company I was working for, Pacific Rim Mechanical.
Yep.
And I had also started doing the survey work for them before survey was like robotics. So it was still like the guys you saw on the side of the field that were like sighting it in and pointing it.
Yep.
So I was in like one of the first crews there that did that. And, we were getting pushed to shoot just a couple hundred points a day, and it was like brutal. It was brutal because you had two guys operating it, and we were just kids from the field, and we're on these hot decks. They're swinging steel, and the sun's out, and you're getting toasted. You look like a lobster at the end of the day, and trying to use this technology that no one really kind of knew how to use, and so we were trying to use it in innovative ways, flipping the stick upside down, doing like as-builts in buildings for duct and like doing mathematical like for like where it was located from where the actual prism was on the stick upside down, touching things. And we were doing all kinds of stuff. We were crawling through ceilings of casinos while people were playing the slot machines down below. And we were hanging up the machine in the ceiling attic space. And literally we had this kid who was like, he had cheerleaded in high school. His name was Tony Leone. And he was so skinny and agile. This kid was like, holding, I don't think anybody can get in trouble now, but like holding ceiling wires, walking out and leaning on stuff to get shots of things. It was cool because it was super innovative. I don't know how practical, and there was probably a decent amount of money spent figuring out what didn't work. Anyways, that's how I got connected with the detailing department, was through that survey work and the schooling I did. So there came a point when we had too much work, and I had done a really good job in the field. I think I had made a okay name for myself at the company with the people that I was working with, and anyways, I got an opportunity to go in, and I thought it was a cool opportunity. It was something that I didn't really know I was interested in, but was definitely intrigued by the offer, and it was super hard. I was a super smoker at the time, and going in and sitting down at a desk all day was almost torturous. I didn't know it was going to be. And constantly getting badgered by my boss about what I wore to work and about going outside to smoke cigarettes all day. And then you're like, oh, free coffee. Oh, free oatmeal or whatever, Anyway, so
I can go to a flushing toilet,
for me. That's, yeah, right. It was big deals, right? So anyways, it was a super cool experience. I was really blessed to have it. It was just I was so glad that I just saw it as an opportunity. I really didn't know what it held for me. And now, looking, I don't know how many years it's been, 10, 15 years down the road, I'm super happy that just those things took place and that I got those opportunities, because that's what led me into, where I'm at today. So
yeah, I mean, I was fortunate to have like a CAD class in high school, but it was AutoCAD, but it was flat drawings, and it was like sometimes you did orthographic drawings, you had your 60-degree angle and stuff. And I would do it, be done pretty quick, but I was bored. I was like, man, this is horrible, torturous. How could I ever do this, right? And then of course I go to school for drafting design because I was like, well, it's the only thing I kind of enjoyed, And so went to school for that, dropped out because I wasn't. I had no passion into it, and then did firefighting, did a lot of stuff like there, and then I fall back on that drafting background. End up doing mechanical parts and pieces because I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be Iron Man, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer and do all this stuff. Obviously, that never happened. I would never fit in an Iron Man suit. I'd be like the big one. And then getting out here in Boise, I got part of a modular factory, and I saw Revit again. Before this, I maybe had a month of Revit experience, 2013, and I absolutely hated it. I was like, nope, not doing construction, can't make me. I hate fractions, not going to do it. I was all decimals and millimeters, man. But the modular factory was a good mix of construction and kind of manufacturing. So I was like, okay, I can get into this. Then I got told, okay, take everyone from CAD to Revit. And I was like, man, sure. I got this much experience. This is what I can do. Developed all that. And then it wasn't until after I left there I understood what BIM and VDC was. I got on LinkedIn and I started networking. And I'm like, holy crap, there's 1,000 other people like me that do this. Because I was in the department and I was kind of like in the back. I was running the department, but I was never in the meetings and that stuff. Like, it was very much, this is where you're at, this is your seat, this is your asylum. I was the boss that was yelling at you, like that was it. But you mentioned detailing before, and something I want to talk about is whenever you went to a company and you were the detailer in CAD, you always got the big, fat, thick manual, right? Then you had to read through it and which line types and styles you use and what layers to use and how to XREF and all that. You had a book. My question is, where's the book going? Ever since Revit and BIM and VDC came through, where's the book? Right? There's
Sure.
no.
I was going to go grab the book. No.
Please grab the book. Please grab the
No,
book.
there's no new book. There's no.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
The standards have completely went out.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer set to an architectural standard. We're all just cowboy gunslinger right now. It's like I said earlier. It's so young that when these books start getting developed and people start implementing them, it's going to increase productivity tenfold. Onboarding is going to be easy. You can find anyone in the field to bring them in to teach them how to do things. But I just had a question about that.
Sure.
If you've seen the book, and you obviously have a book, and I'm going to let you keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
So,
it's definitely been an interesting time with just everything transitioning to Revit and everybody coming from AutoCAD, and basically that being now almost just completely antiquated, and nobody operating in it other than the sprinkler fitters roughly, and then I get on jobs where, it's all CAD, and I'm still working in Revit with the CAD, and I'll typically be able to get a Revit file eventually if anybody remembers to just say Revit file, because they think it's synonymous, CAD and Revit, and they wonder why I'm getting CAD files, because they're asking for CAD files. But absolutely, man, you're spot on, dude. When there's standards that are made and we can all just approach it that way, then really it kind of goes streamlined.
I remember having that exact conversation where I said I needed CAD files, but I meant Revit, and I got CAD files, like AutoCAD files, DWGs, and I was like, what is this? Give me the other ones. Give me the other CAD. Give me
what I
Revit
wanted.
files. They're like, what's a Revit file? I'm like, the 3D model. Give me the 3D model. I remember having to do that specifically twice before I was like, okay, I just need a 3D model. Don't give me the CAD. That's too funny. That is too funny. Question for you on when did you find your aha BIM Revit 3D moment? Because there were some times everyone's got a moment where they go from CAD to Revit, or they're in the BIM space and they're like, okay, I'm gonna learn this shit and this one I'm gonna do forever because this is amazing, this is awesome, this is playing a video game. It didn't hit me till after I left that company and I realized there was 1,000 other people like me. I'm like, holy crap, yeah, I could do this. This is a thing. This is an industry. Let's build it out. Let's do it. I was all in love with it. So, did you have a moment like that?
I don't know if I had an aha moment. I think, I got the opportunity to go back in the field after being in the office for, a year at Pacific Rim. And I think I really realized that what I didn't like at the time when I was in the office, I was struggling with just being in the office. I'm like, man, I just want to be back in the field and things. I went back on the field. I'm like, I think the grass is always greener wherever you're at. But that stuff was really interesting. I really liked what I was doing. It was a lot of work to learn, right? I'd been kind of knowing what I was doing in the field, and then being in the office, it's like it was a whole new set of skills I was having to learn. So being able to really think about that and have the opportunity to go either direction, because the field, I mean, it's a company truck, it's field bonuses, it's a gas card, it's I'm the boss, shut up and listen to me, and if you're into those things, and it's good pay, you can walk around smoking a cigarette all day, right? And at the time it mattered. So now I don't know who's doing it, but anyways, there was lots of reasons at the time, silly or not, that it appealed to me. But to go back out and think about that, I really came to a conclusion that I really enjoyed it. It was titillating to the mind. It kept me thinking, right? It kept me intrigued, and I really like the idea of fabrication. I didn't like it so much when I was in the field and they were just starting to do it. They were sending everything out fabricated, and it didn't work. Not for anything, right? It was just they were sending out everything, and you were taking apart everything, and it was just a battle. It was just a waste of money as far as I was concerned. But when I built this hospital in Whittier, Los Angeles, California, and I was up there for 3 years building this hospital, Presbyterian Intercommunity Hospital, and it was a 7-story state of the art. I mean, it was awesome. It was super cool, and it was a great experience. But I got an opportunity to, I remember my boss came to me. He told me I had to draw up what we had a lay down space, and I had to draw up what that room was going to look like. And he's like, Santa's workshop, or what you make it Ian's fab shop, and And so I went, I drew all this stuff, and I sent off all these like things to be made at sheet metal shops for like tops, and we were fabricating med gas, and we were fabricating all of our, just everything that we could, we were fabricating. And we had ISAT, the company who makes all the seismic stuff, fabricating it through Toco, their hardware supply company, making all of our hangers. And so I came up with this whole system of like laying out and colors, and we were using blue bangers with flags, and then snapping lines with spray paint of different colors, and then basically we're dividing hangers in like 3 foot, 7 foot, 5 foot to keep 10-foot lengths evenly. And so anyways, we had a pretty cool system, and I think it really just turned my mind on to how efficient and effective you can be with the information coming from, at the time, CAD, but the information coming from our models, and implementing that in the field if you get a cohesive workflow and communication. And that's really where I see the breakdown. Even just at these large companies I've had the pleasure of working at, it's still just a battle. The field doesn't want to do it that way. They want to do it this way. I've always done it this way. Just all the classic stuff. And some of that stuff, maybe we need to listen to a little bit, but I do think that there's an opportunity there to just maximize effectiveness and efficiency. So I think that's what really turned me on is, I see HVAC is a lot like steel to me, where it's sort of Lincoln Logs a lot because they've kind of worked that out. So, you get a spool map, you get your spools, and piece A1 goes here and A2 goes there, and it's super effective that way. Plumbing, it's been, I think it's been a challenge to really find a way to take such a customized application and try to find a fabrication solution that works widespread. So I think that's been a huge interest of mine. I've seen some companies do magnificent at it. I've seen some companies do awful at it. And I've been at companies that just really don't know what to do except for to do gang bathrooms and custom PRVs and RPZs. And all of it, from a little to everything, is a good idea if it could just be thought out and effectively implemented. So, I love now drawing sheet metal and drawing mechanical pipe and drawing electrical and gone way beyond plumbing. But I think that in plumbing specifically, you have this situation that I've always been around that has this great opportunity to be super effective by using 3D models. And they're probably one of the most impacted trades, and in the way that if they don't plan it right, they're screwed. And their shit's expensive. It's expensive, it's hard, and just about everything is custom. So you try to make, your lab drops and walls and your gang bathroom, batteries and what you can. But I've seen companies do awesome jobs with all their fab racks. I've been a part of it. I've installed entire floors on laboratories in like a day, racing with people, but not because of me, because of the good planning that happened in the model. And I feel like a plumbing god, right? I'm like, I installed thousands of feet of pipe because there's 6 different pipes on a rack, and I went around a whole floor. But really, it was just thanks to good planning and good implementation. So yeah, I think that's the stuff that really turned me on there,
As you were talking, I realized that, at that factory, I did the same thing. It was the how efficient can I be, to the point where, like, I'm so efficient that, like, I need something else, like, implemented, other than practices and workflows. I need tools, right? I need equipment. And that was exciting because, in a modular factory, it's a trait train. Once one's gone, that's coming down the line, but it's repeatable over and over again. So there's a lot of processes to get rid of repeatability, or like to influence repeatability, or even like take very much advantage of repeatability, and being able to say, yeah, this wall is built here, 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 and here. We're going to build that wall 6 times, put them in these packets. So I'm making these packets that are, 30 to 60 pages long, depending on how many walls are in this thing, and I got to send them out 2 packets a day. So I'm doing 120 pages a day for fabrication, and I'm talking every still, every pipe, every conduit, every box, locations of cabinets, and where things are coming up in the floor. And I love that so much that I wanted to keep building on that. And like you said, I think that's probably an important factor of mine as well. Getting into BIM was like, how efficient could I be? That's awesome. I just realized that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So the thing I want to ask you again not again, is if you were to bring people into your company, what would you say to them to get them excited about it? Let's say this person has no idea what construction is, a major gamer, VR developer, right? Someone you could probably use today, but he has no interest in construction. What's some things that you would tell this guy, hey man, trust me, you want to get into construction, you gotta come work for me?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that when people are actually thinking about a career that will make them money and actually see dollar bills come in the door, construction is a great place to be. And if you are all a creative individual who likes to have your input on things, I've seen this with people who work with me who've come to work for Advanced BIM. You can be a little guy here and have a lot of impact. You can notice things and speak up and be a hero of a meeting or a day by just paying attention and being good at what you do. And you don't necessarily have to be the construction king or the person who's been in construction for 20 years. There's plenty of those people in there, and you can tell who they are in the meeting, all crusty and mad. No, but,
smoking cigarettes, yeah.
But you can be smoking cigarettes, and you can be a guy who's just starting out, relatively speaking. Once you learn the tools and you get your hands dirty enough in it that you kind of know the language we're talking, you can really be helpful. You can really make a big difference. And then you can start to kind of set your own wages. So it becomes an exciting race to, I always tell people this: if you like creativity, but you like enough structure to give you direction, this is perfect. Because it's like, we get engineer drawings and I've got code and constructability. So there's my structure. Now, be creative on how can we save pipe and fittings? How can we do this best? How can we get there in the most effective and efficient manner? And it doesn't take someone who's a rocket scientist or somebody who's been in construction for 20 years to know how to do that. It might take somebody who's been in construction to know what fitting to use, or exactly how we might, do that transition or get to that location in that way. But somebody can notice that early on, like, well, hey, why don't we just run on this side of all of these, spread footings, or why don't we go ahead and jump up here? And a lot of times those thoughts are coming from maybe a little bit more of a naive opinion, because they're suggesting things that people might feel a little stupid suggesting or overlooking because it's not the way they've always seen it done. So I think for somebody who likes being in working on computers, being in 3D models, flying around in, Navis, or, depending upon what area of this, you go into, if it's in construction, you're probably gonna be in Navis. But being able to go in there and make that all look and render the way you want, fly around in that, get good at using the tools. I think it's a fascinating day that most people find is a pretty cool way to spend your day. And if you've liked playing games and or being on technology, you're going to reinvent the way we use those things. You're going to think of plugins that we should be creating and using, and you're going to become probably more effective than some of us construction natives. And together, you're going to probably pick up on what I got to say pretty quickly. And I'm going to learn a lot from you because you're more innovative with tools, and that's going to get you more pay. And then so you're going to enjoy this sort of delicate balance between being able to express yourself creatively, enjoy the working environment and the tools, while thinking innovatively and finding enough structure and mentorship in working with somebody like me or yourself or whomever. So I would have that literal conversation with people if they came in and had no concept. Or I've had similar conversations, like I said, where just really focus on the fact that it's like, this is a great way to be in an environment that lets you express, I don't know, I love being able to put my ingenuity to work and really look at that and think, yeah, I thought of doing it that way, and it's a really good thought.
Problem solving and critical thinking.
Space for people. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I love that explanation. And for everyone listening, if you're a student, which, you probably haven't caught this podcast yet, but if you're listening and you are, that is a great way, even not a student, even just like out there trying to find a job, a great way to get in the industry. If you love problem solving, if you love issues and fixing them and different ways of thinking, like you're talking about creativity, go to these places. don't put an application in because you won't get looked at for an application. You got to go into these places. You got to shake these people's hands. You got to go a little old school with it and say, yeah, actually, I learned about this. I want to start doing this. Do you have an opening for me? Right? More than likely, you're gonna find a company that is like, awesome. I have this kid that's green. He knows nothing. I can train him the way I want to train him. He has no bad habits. He comes from, he's a blank canvas to get exactly what we need implemented here at the whatever company it is. So it's a great explanation, Ian. Thank you. Again, you're just full of them today. Let me tell you, I'm going to put your quotes all over T-shirts. So, Ian, I want to thank you for joining me today. Do you want to do one last plug?
Well, I am starting the Context show here in Dallas. It's really in conjunction with VCX, the Virtual Construction Committee with Texo. We're trying to bring spotlights to projects and companies that are, kind of doing hopefully innovative and extraordinary things with construction technology. So trying to really bring a spotlight on that. So here shortly, you can find me at the Context show. And I do put out a newsletter, the Contact Guy. And you can find that and subscribe to that on LinkedIn. And then you can find me at Ian Martin on LinkedIn or Advanced BIM Solutions. Reach out if you're interested in VDC and BIM, and yeah, love to talk. So,
hell yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Ian. I appreciate it again for coming on. Guys, if you're listening, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you find me. And I will see you guys next time.